and it was raining, and we were under the, you know, the awning thing, but we were eating hot dogs. We had hot dogs.
On the national trip.
Yeah.
You know, bring your weekend.
I said, Julie, don't we have a picture of the two of us together? So she sent me that one. We're like,
Drowned rats.
yes, so we're dripping. I think I have a
She's
better
like, no, I have a better
picture.
picture.
of us, yeah. We're doing the flyer. Oh, God. That was so good. Oh, my gosh. I was like trying to figure out. Okay. Yes. Okay. So, there's so many. Okay. You have the marketing plan sheet. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And I can go over that with you, but there's some other things I want to make sure that I go over with you, too. So, all right. Here's one of the statements about the marketing plan that I know to be so from the bottom of my soul. Our marketing plan was not created for small dreams. Right. It was not. Mary Kay and Richard put this together for the basis of women taking advantage of extraordinary possibilities. And that's why when my dad said to me, best advice to you when you saw the marketing plan is to give this your all, not all of your time, but give it all of your heart. Like when you're doing it, throw your heart over the line. And then if this marketing plan stays as good as it currently is, don't ever quit, because it will continue to get better and better. As you build and you grow, there are going to be more levels of income and commissions, and it's because this was created for multiplication and growth. That's how it rolls out. And that was like a big wham when I recognized that. It was even like 10 years ago, and there was a re-energize with the marketing plan, that if you can take advantage of a small part of it, and that's going to be fine, but it was intended for you to take advantage of a major part of it, because it's not, so you don't have to work harder to accomplish more. You work differently. That's right. Differently. So as a national sales director, I worked differently than I did when I was a director. And as a director, I worked differently as I did, obviously, as a consultant. But so here's just I wasn't going to say it, but God said say it. Okay. So as a consultant, you work with your customers. Yes, you create your customers, sell the product, initially make the money, establish customers, and you can build a team. Most units as a director are not, if they're a recruiting unit, it's driven by the director. Yes? Yes. Recruiting units don't just happen. Selling units catch on, you teach them how to sell, and then they continue to teach their people how to sell, and then they recruit their customers who understand the product. I mean, it just perpetuates itself. But a recruiting unit is purposely, intentionally, you drive that as a director. Directors work with their consultants to empower them and equip them to build their businesses. So I went through this with Sean Key one time because it was a really fun conversation. He said when he worked on the assembly line in New Jersey, because that's what he was hired to do. He was the one who put together the boxes on the assembly line. He said when I did that, I was working, like I was building it, putting it on, working really fast, and then I got promoted to be the manager. And the manager didn't build boxes anymore. The manager actually promoted the benefit and the productivity of those he managed. So they were building the boxes, and he was making it fun for them and giving them goals and being exciting, having a good time. And so he was working with them. They were actually doing the box building. Then he was promoted on a level higher, where he was the manager over the managers. So then he wasn't working with the people who are on the assembly line. He was working with those managers, which he just was, and how to work with them effectively so they could work with their teams effectively so they could build more boxes. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
And then he said I got hired to move to Dallas, Texas. And when I moved to Dallas, Texas, then I got another a title and position, and my description and what I did and who I worked with completely changed. I started building boxes and then I went up to the next level. So point is that as a director, you can continue to work as diligently selling product as you did as a consultant, but you just added another job. So if you keep adding jobs on top of jobs, then looking at becoming a national sales director or even having lots of offspring can cause a paradigm of more work, more energy, more angst, more demand, more when am I gonna have time for all of that, versus promoting yourself and letting go, and promoting yourself and letting go. And that doesn't mean that you don't sell product, and it also means that you have to do what energizes you. And LaFrida and I have had that conversation because she's energized by selling the product. Yes, that's a good thing. Why are you laughing? That's not your laugh. Okay.
I love you, Stacey.
It's true. I mean, okay, I'm gonna put you in the same boat as Cindy Williams. There you go. Because my good friend Cindy Williams loved to sell the product. I'm saying loved because she's in Ameritime now, and she doesn't sell the product anymore at all, which is totally surprising to me. She's not supposed to, but I kind of thought she would anyway. Everywhere we went, she sold product. We go in the bathroom in an airport, and she's selling somebody's stuff. And I'd be like, would you just stop for just a minute so that you and I can have a conversation? Could we possibly sit on this airplane and have some time together without you selling product to the person right now? I'm surprised you're not standing up and going, see the comment? This is a great comment. It's the whoosh, it's the win, it's the, that just adrenalized her, that it was just a part of her nature. And the interesting thing though, that everybody assumed that she had tons of customers because she sold the product. No, she sold the product for the win. She passed the customers off. Sold the product for the win, passed the customers off. Sold the product for the win. She did not have like a whole, because that, becoming a national sales director and servicing a whole lot of customers, is that this is pulling you here, time, energy, and then you're not being able to be effective here. So she figured out a way she could still have the rush, but not be adding on more. Am I making sense? Okay. So the only reason I'm even bringing that up is because a lot of times, Mary Kay Ash told us at national summits that she talks to us as national sales directors and advises us as national sales directors differently than she did standing at the podium and talking to the masses. Because when you talk to the masses, you have to deliver a message that the masses can do. And when you talk to the directors, you're gonna deliver a message that's specifically, intentionally for them to focus in on. And when you talk to the nationals, it's a completely different conversation. So what has happened, I feel, is that it all got mushed together. And so the message hasn't been the message. And she also would say to us in front of all her amazing corporate staff, because corporate is meant to be corporate. That's who they are. They were hired for that position. And they deal with completely different things than we deal with. And they think differently than we think because of that reason. So when corporate staff are telling you how to do your job, they're operating from a checklist. Right? And their checklist is, I'm gonna tell you to do this and this and this and this. And the reason I'm gonna tell you that is because I've never done it myself, so I really don't know what to tell you except for the list somebody put in front of me. I hope that's not on Facebook.
Oh, no.
Thank you. Because it is not out of disrespect for my friends at Mary Kay Corporate who are extraordinary people. Their job is different. So the coaching is different. And the mentoring is different, and the message is different. So the prayer is for you to have discernment as to where you spend your time and what it's generating. And that I don't want you to assume or feel that this is meant to get harder, because it's meant to get easier.
That's a word right there.
It's true, it is true. So I watched Jan Harris, and I wanted her lifestyle. I wanted not only the lifestyle of the beautiful things that she was able to invest in, but of her peace and her freedom and her options and how she lived her life. I watched her. I paid close attention to what that looked like. I watched her do she would do star consultant events in Omaha, Nebraska when she was an executive senior, and I watched her she did retreats at her home. I went to her home as a red jacket when I was a consultant in Omaha, Nebraska, and then I watched how that shifted and changed when she became a national sales director, and then where she spent her time and her investment into all of us as her directors, and it was a shift. It changed from there to there. So it is, and it's really the extraordinary beauty of leadership is about lots and lots of conversations for the sake of connection and depth of relationship. So, one of the things I'm going to teach you really fast is when I had that mission that I was going to create lots of strong relationship and connections with the women in my up and coming national area. I started to have some little mini retreats in my house, like for a weekend, and I would have some of my consultants in my unit and then consultants from my directors' units who wanted to be that wanted to be directors too. So they would choose people and they would come to my house. So I did something called confidence cards. And here's what a confidence card is. So what I would do is I would give them, so let's say it's just this table right here. So 2, 4, 5 of you. I would give LaFrida 5 cards, 5 cards, 5 cards, 5 cards, 5 cards. She would tell everybody a little bit about herself, and you would all write down in a card with her name on the top why you love her. Well, a love note. I love this about you, I love that about you, I think you're amazing. It's incredible how whatever the love note was. And then at the end of her talking, everybody passed the love note to Frida, and she has 5 love notes or 4 love notes from all of you. And then you would tell your story, Cheryl, and then everyone would write a love note here and then pass it to Cheryl. Then after Cheryl has hers collected, Frida goes and chooses 2 of her cards that she reads out loud. Now the reason I have them read, I usually do 3, but in a small group. So because 1, it's very hard to read compliments out loud. And when you do it, it's a declaration. You are reading someone else's words about you out loud. And then also what it does is it gives everybody else ammunition as to know what to write. Like, then you're like, oh, that was so great. Now I know what to write when I do Cheryl's cards, or I know. And so really the person at the end of the whole evening, you've got the best cards than anybody else. But the intention of this is that everybody walked away. So if I had 40 women in a room, 40 women, they would walk away with 40 cards. Wow. The other benefit, however, is that when I am listening to you talk and I have a connection, we just both lost our mom this year, or I have a sister who has a challenge, or we have young kids, or you said something that just made my heart ache. When we are done and I watch everybody stand up, the next best part that I love is watching who they gravitate to. Because they walk across the room to each other, and the hugs ensue, and the tears ensue, and I watched relationships that to this day became lifetime relationships.
Yes.
Developed from those weekends way back when they were consultants in my home. And now are directors who will fly to each other's homes and do life together and vacations with each other's families. That was what I envisioned. That's what I wanted. I wanted my directors to love each other so much that they would go to leadership just to be together. They would all show up at the advance because they would not ever consider not being at advance because they're there for each other in addition to be with each other's consultants to help support each other's consultants. So you create the atmosphere that you want to fill. And you create the environment and the spirit of that environment that you want to expand intentionally. And then, so the confidence cards is, I mean, to this day, my directors, by the time that I became an emeritite, we continue doing them all the time. Because you can't ever get tired of listening to, we would have the directors talk about one thing they learned this year that was a significant change in their business or just something that was a revelation for them. And they had a limited amount of time to talk, but when they would share, then everybody had that opportunity to reinforce and love on them. So questions about that?
I do. I'm slow. I can't catch how we got 40 at the end.
Okay, meaning that if
We started here with,
yeah, that was an example.
okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, so you did
Yes.
the whole room. Okay.
So if you were at my
Okay.
home, it would be everybody that would
Okay.
do it. Yeah, so start with
Thank
one.
you.
And then they share a little bit about themselves, about anything that they want to share.
Initially, it would be, yes, when they were consultants, I would have them share really brief, like, I've been married for this many years, have this many children, and then one thing that you value most in your life. So then they would share something that was incredibly important to them. And that would usually cause them to think about an emotional something. And then that would create the connection that would continue to grow. So that, with consultants, that's usually what I did. When it was directors, I would have them share the revelation of something that changed for them, or something that they learned this year, that they know they'll carry forward. So it was ahas.
So just one question.
Yes, please.
About the card. So do you get a card for each person? Is that how they're walking away with so many cards? Or are they just walking away with the 5 from the people that was in the smaller
Thank you for
groups?
clarifying that. So, yeah, so if this was the whole room, LaFrida would have a card from all of you. So it would, I just use that as an example, and I
Right.
actually implemented the picture or the vision. Yeah, and you would have cards from every single person. So if I would, instead of 5 cards, I would have given her 40 cards.
One for each person
One
in the
for
room.
each person who's there. Exactly. And and this will be a really funny story, but when I was a brand new national sales director, Ian Duncan was the president in Australia. And he had asked me to come to Australia to do the leadership conference and to be the guest national there. And the reason he asked me to do that is because Pat Smith, who was the head of the DIQ department, was a good friend of his, and Pat had been at one of the things in my home. And she saw the confidence cards, and he said, I want you to come because we have 2 national sales directors in Australia at that time, and he said, and we have 4 executive seniors, and they're all high D personalities, and they don't like each other. He said, I can't get through to them because I am a feeler and an I personality, which he was hired to be the president because he was the teacher anyway. He was a school teacher. And before that, they'd always been hiring corporate people, and corporate people did it. So they found him, and he was a teacher, and he was magnificent in communication. Well, by that time, the top people in the company were taught by the corporate people prior to that. So here he walks in, he has no credibility with them, nor trust with them, because he is gracious and kind and loving. That's not how they were operating at that moment. So they brought me in, and I did the speaking in front of the group, and then the next day I had all day long with this group of 6 who didn't like each other. And so I started with confidence cards that morning with them, and this is hysterical. So one of the women, when they all passed their cards to her, she looked at them and read them to herself and said, "I'm not going to read 2 of these because you didn't put your name on it. If you didn't put your name on it, then you don't mean it. So, I'm not going to read it." So, I was like, was there anybody here that didn't put their name on it? So they were like, oh, okay. They stood up, went over, put their name on it. And so, but by the time we went around the room of only 6, they were starting to thaw. Because they had to think of something kind and gracious and wonderful to write about each one of them in the group. And then they had to read them out loud, and there was nothing at all negative. It only was positive and loving and warm and generous. And then I just added to the mix as to what I observed and what I saw and what I knew and all that kind of thing. Okay, so by that evening, it was, and then I did all kinds of, who moved my cheese, I trained on that book, I trained on all kinds of things, like everything I could possibly think of. It was just me and them all day long. So at dinner time, I was exhausted, like emotionally, I was exhausted. So I went up to my room and I took off my shoes and I laid on the bed, and I thought, if I don't make it down for dinner, I think, well, they let me just leave, or they're gonna come get me, I don't know. So the phone rings and I answered it, and it's Ian, and I said, "Hi, Ian." And he goes, "Stacy, I know you are really tired because this is how I've lived my life. I need for you to come down because we're gonna stand outside of the restaurant before you go in, because I want you to hear something." So I got dressed, I went down, he was waiting for me, he moved me close to the door of the room they were in. He goes, "I want you to listen. Do you hear it?" I said, "Yes." He said, "What do you hear?" And I said, "Laughter." And he said, "They have never laughed."
Wow.
So I went home from that trip and I felt used, beautifully used. God used me to do a work that I was used to doing all the time. But He put me in an environment where they needed it even more. And that is how this company functions. I mean, that is the operation of what happens. And I have a million stories like that, but the other one that came to me when I was on my way down here and I was praying and thinking of things that I wanted to share with you. There was, my mother-in-law was one of my offspring sales directors, and she's a blast. She's still with us, which is crazy. She's 93, and her greatest regret is she didn't earn a peacock back. I always tell her that's not something to regret, because the only reason I won one is because of her. My first one was because of she and I partnering up and doing an amazing work, and that started it. So she and I would do meetings in Ottumwa, Iowa. And as a new director, she would have all her people that she was just like a powerhouse. And there was one woman that would come, and she was there for like 4 weeks in a row. And I was there at the beginning of that month, and then I came back the beginning of the next month. And when I was there, she was there again. And my mother-in-law said, "Okay, Danita," that's her name at the end of the meeting, "Danita, I'm calling you out, girl, because you can't come back here again unless you sign this agreement." And I'm sitting there thinking, because she's saying it in front of everybody that's there. And she said, we know that you want to, you know this is your 5th meeting you've been to, and now it's time for you to just like say, okay. So Danita was like, okay. So I went and sat down next to Danita, and I, the linger longer, I stayed with her, answered questions, went over inventory. She was an adoptee. She wasn't even, she was an adoptee that was coming to the meetings. Her name is Danita Roberts. Okay, so we're gonna fast forward. That was when I was a new director. So 13 years later, when I debuted as a national sales director, I was in qualifications. NIQ is what they call it. And my mother-in-law was becoming a director again. She was not, during that process, she had some back issues, was not a director, and now she's becoming a director again. She was wrapping it up, we were wrapping up our national area, and we had an event called, it was at Talk of the Town in Indianola, Iowa, restaurant in the back room. And it was one of those, Lord, this has got to count. Because she was like my last director that needed to qualify, like it was it. And I knew that she was feeling so much pressure, and she was feeling it was all on her back, and I was making sure that she knew that it was not, and that God already had it, and we prayed over it, and that's why I was there. I stayed with her for 2 weeks to make sure that we saw this through, because I knew that if she didn't see it through, she would be horrified, and it would yes, affect her terribly. So anyway, so we were at the Talk of the Town restaurant back room, and she had invited like tons of women. We'd followed up and made phone calls, and we had a group that were coming, and we got there and we waited, and there was like 2 that came. 2 were there, and she was facialing them, and I was just kind of standing back in the room waiting to do the part that I was going to show the marketing plan, and in walks Danita Roberts. Danita Roberts, sales director, driving her 4th pink Cadillac. She had on baseball clothes, and she walked in, and she said, "Stacy, I was at the baseball game, and God told me, Stacy needs a word from you." So she said, I left the baseball game, I got in my car, and I drove here, and here's his word. She grabbed my shoulders, and she looked me in the eye, and she said, the favor is hovering. And he wants you to know that it's already done. Just keep moving forward, keep loving, keep caring, keep talking, keep sharing, and it is already completely finalized. And so when she's saying it, looking in my eyes, and thinking, first of all, I'm like, so all the tears are coming, and I'm like, thank you. Do not look at the reality that is before you, because that is not the reality. God is telling you the reality is where He's taking you. That's the reality. It is not what is before you. And no matter what it looks like, no matter how challenging, no matter what you prepared for, no matter what doesn't look like it's coming together, Deb Pike used to say, what looks like is falling apart is actually falling together. And that He is weaving things in the background that you have no idea. And one of those women, 2 guests, one of those women that night signed up, became a consultant. She recruited 5 women in the next 2 days.
Wow.
And that wrapped up my mother-in-law's unit and it was done. It was done. Hallelujah. But I love how He will always weave through the people that you least expect. And that if my mother-in-law hadn't thrown that agreement down in front of Danita Roberts that night when I was horrified and said, you're not coming back unless you sign up, and look at what happened as a result of a decision that was made. So I was listening to a clip from a pastor who said that that in 1934 there was a revival meeting. It was a tent revival, and everybody was gathered, and it was full There was a pastor named Mordecai Ham. That was his name, Mordecai Ham. And he was delivering the message of God's glory to this entire tent full of people. And the Holy Spirit was surging in this tent and standing on the stage. And there were two 14-year-old boys who were walking by the tent. And they heard his booming voice. So they wandered up to the door of the tent. And the gentleman who was standing outside the door said, can't go in because there's not any seats. That it's completely, everybody's in their seats. So the boys were like, okay, so they started to walk away, and a usher who had been seating people ran out after them and grabbed the back of their t-shirts and tugged on them and said, we will find you seats. Come with me, we will find you seats. So he brought them back into the tent. He went through all the aisles, found 2 seats, and set the boys down. And at the end of the revival, those boys stood up, gave their lives to Christ, made decisions that they were going to follow him to the ends of the earth and actually make an impact in this kingdom, in this nation that has never existed before. And the one of their names was Billy Graham.
That's what I was gonna say.
So the question the pastor asked that was on this little recording that I was watching was, we know that it was God, obviously. Was it Mordecai? Was it Billy Graham? Or was it the usher? Who was the hero that night? That unsuspecting, least suspecting, for the sake of, that we run after the people for the conversations, and bring them into the mix with the intention that it's going to bless their life and change their life. So no matter what our goals are, as long as the intention is being done through the sake of what's in front of us, that is going to bring. So I have a little paradigm of, when God calls you, that's number one, he calls you, because he will always call you if you listen. But you've got to be listening, because sometimes when we're frustrated, we're only focusing on the frustration or the current reality, and we're not listening for him, and we're not paying attention to his voice. But when he calls you, then he wants you to go into action, because you can't benefit from calling unless you're in action, because the third part of it is he orchestrates your actions. So the orchestration is that you meet the people, he opens the doors, he leads you that direction. And then you celebrate the evidences. That's the fourth part. You celebrate the evidences. So what came to me a few months ago when I was teaching this is that sometimes the greatest part of it is not the end result. The greatest part is the provision that we get to celebrate. Like when you see an evidence and you know that undeniably it was his hand, and that he moved in such a way that it's taking your breath away, and that causes you to just be in shock and awe. That's the celebration. It's the provisions that you get to celebrate along the way to the destiny that he has for you. That's the greatest joy. It's those weavings and those stories and those knowings that was intentional. And we know that when he gives you a dream and he gives you a vision and he gives you that calling, the last part of it is that it's already done. When he gives it to you, it is already done, because the provision has already been put into place before he even gave you the vision. That's the confidence. The confidence is knowing when you say yes, then it's already set up for you, unless you back down.
That's right.
Or don't listen. Or get caught up in the struggle versus the celebration of the direction. So right now, so my own little promo. I'm working for a nonprofit that happened truly by God's direction. I really didn't have specific plans for when I was becoming an emeriti. I knew there were other things I wanted to do. I just thought he's going to show me, because I wasn't ready to not be giving 100% to my directors. So I knew that once that door opened to the next chapter of my life, and so this nonprofit kind of wove into my place. It's called Britain Grace Nation, and it's kind of like, it's a movement for young girls. It's for middle school and high school girls. And the woman who established it, her name is Fanchen Stinger, and she's a remarkable woman, and she left full-time career in journalism on television. She's earned 15 Emmys. Actually, I was sitting in her house one day and I'm looking at all the Emmys sitting under her TV, and I was like, those are Emmys. Those are Emmys on your TV. She goes, I know, where do you put them? Like, where do you put them? I can buy under my bed. I don't know where to put them, so I just put them there. I go, Fanchen, like, you are so not normal. But anyway, so her intention is that she is doing what we would do if we had middle school and high school girls in Mary Kay. So when we say things like, gosh, I would love it if in high school they would teach life lessons, if they teach self-awareness and self-confidence and resiliency, help you learn how to set goals in your life and fulfill those goals and walk to them, and then how awesome would that be if they would have taught that in school. So in what we do, so I'm the one who is responsible for the leadership curriculum for that middle school and high school, and we have a Zoom that we do. The girls are from all over the country, and we started in September, and then it goes until May, and so this is my second year. Well, I've done it all the way through. My third year that I've helped with the curriculum, but so we have registration starting, and it's going to begin on the 15th of September. So if you know any young women that are in that age group that you feel would benefit from being part of something where they were learning from Fanchen and myself, just let me know, because we're so excited watching what happens. And you know, with women, it is the greatest gift in watching women shift their life, change their atmosphere in their homes. With young women, what is amazing is they shift on a dime. Like, you teach them a lesson in resilience, so what it means to be resilient, and give them examples, and then you say your assignment is to recognize 2 ways that you're resilient this week. They will come back the next week and they will report, like, I did this differently and I did that differently and I made it. It's like, it's so like, so exciting to watch that happen. So it's been a really fun thing to do. And so marking plan sheet. I think the best thing I can do, because I know we're out of time, right? Yeah. Is that I will do a video explaining how to do this, and I'll send it to LaFrida. Is that okay? Yep. And then you'll have it to watch over and over, and then you'll know how to